All right, I'll start with an easy one because it's the second part of leading a group. This PowerPoint we made.
Hello class and welcome to our second lecture on group stages. To follow our lecture on forming, in this lecture we're looking at the next two group stages, storming and norming, as part of our group skills in substance abuse counseling course. As we look at the objectives for the week, I want to remind you to review the chapters for the week prior to viewing the lecture, as it is intended to supplement your reading. By the end of the week, you should be able to identify behavior that may be considered resistance during the storming stage, describe how peer relationships develop in the norming stage, and distinguish among the first stages of groups, including forming, storming, and norming. First, let's review the 5 stages of group development that we're looking at during these 3 weeks. The stages include the initial stage of forming, which we discussed last week, and is characterized by initial caution associated with any new experience. During the forming stage, members may attempt to avoid being rejected by others, and may be superficial, centering conversations on historical or future events that don't necessarily have a direct impact on the group experience. With respect to tasks during the forming stage, remember that the group must deal with apprehension, as well as review member goals and contracts, specify rules, set limits, and promote positive interchange among members. This week, we're going to talk about the next 2 stages, storming and norming. And then next week, we'll wrap up by talking about the working and closing stages, also known as performing and adjoining. So first today, we will look at the storming stage and talk a little bit about member behavior here. As the group transitions from the initial forming stage to the next stage, which is storming, group members may begin to compete with one another to find their place in the group. Peer relationships may be uncomfortable as the group struggles over power and control, and may be characterized by anxiety, resistance, defensiveness, conflict, and confrontation. The storming stage helps bridge the group closer to a time of productivity, and although it may be uncomfortable, it is necessary in the development of a successful group. Primary tension is what members are likely to experience during the first session, and primary tension is concerned with the kind of awkwardness that comes with strange situations. Secondary tension, in contrast, deals with intra-group conflict and is what we see in the storming stage. With the help of group leaders, members work through non-productive ways of relating and begin to establish new patterns and a role in the group. The issue of power is central to the storming stage and refers to the capacity to bring about certain intended consequences in the behavior of others. In response to the struggle for power, group members may at first attempt to address the issue through old approaches, like fighting or withdrawing. And because members are still just beginning to get to know one another, there's very little trust established in the group during the storming stage. Members may exhibit resistance to change through behaviors like intellectualizing, questioning, or advice giving, as well as band-aiding, where members prevent others from expressing their emotional pain by trying to soothe a calm member who may actually benefit from exploring themselves more deeply. Other resistant behavior may be seen through dependency, or members who monopolize group time, and also through an attack on the group leader, which may come as a result of subgrouping, fear of intimacy, or extra-group socializing. There are many strategies for working through the interpersonal and intrapersonal group issues that occur during the storming stage, which may include inviting a process observer to come provide feedback on what he or she sees occurring within the group. This neutral third party can help spark conversations, which might allow members to attempt to change behaviors or modify ways of interacting. Working through the storming stage will result in members having a greater capacity for protective work by having established emotional space for one another. The interdependency among group members and the stability of the group as a whole cannot deepen until issues within the group surface, are acknowledged, and are dealt with. The work that occurs during the storming stage allows for the group to progress to the norming stage, And ultimately, this is the work that allows for productivity and success in the long term. As we move into the norming stage, group norming refers to the we-ness that describes group identity or cohesiveness that's now possible once the group has resolved the storming stage. During this stage, peer relationships are categorized by an increased sense of identification, where members begin to see themselves as being similar to one another. Members are also more likely to work harmoniously with each other, displaying high levels of cooperation and collaboration during this stage. Cohesion describes a sense of groupness that promotes high morale, trust, and solidarity. Cohesive groups are more effective in their communication patterns and also tend to have more fun, but there can also be pitfalls. For instance, a group that's highly cohesive may avoid addressing anything that could potentially be upsetting in an attempt to maintain that positive atmosphere. But ultimately, this detracts from the overall success of the group and its members. With respect to tasks, during the norming stage, group members learn to regulate, evaluate, and coordinate their efforts. They do so by showing support, empathizing, facilitating discussion, and providing self-disclosures which reveal information about themselves to other group members. The norming stage results in a group that feels connected and is able to move on to concentrate on being productive rather than protecting themselves. Norming allows group members to clear their minds, reassess their goals, feel good about themselves, and make new plans for the working stage of the group. So here we are again, ready for our second video clip, looking at leading in the here and now. This 1 hour section is called Transition and Flight. And you will again need to log in using your username and password in order to access the video. This video is going to illustrate these next two stages for us of storming and norming, and also provides a nice model for strong group leadership. Please make sure to take the time to review this video, whether it be in short segments or the full hour in one sitting, and look specifically for issues related to struggles for power, issues of anxiety, and later an increased sense of identification and cooperation and collaboration among group members.
So you guys are actually leading groups within classroom.
This final slide compares each of the three stages that we've discussed through these lectures. I encourage you to review the information carefully and make sure that you can distinguish among the three stages thus far. Remember that forming is characterized by initial caution associated with any new experience and an attempt to avoid being rejected by others. During this stage, group members try to be superficial and center conversation around historical or larger events that do not have a direct impact on the group. During this stage, members must deal with apprehension, review member goals and contracts, specify roles, set limits, and promote a positive interchange among members. We've seen that the storming stage is characterized by a time of conflict and anxiety. During this stage, the group moves from the primary tension that comes with the awkwardness around any new experience to now secondary tension, which has to relationships within the group. During the storming stage, there's an attempt to balance between too much and too little tension, as we talked about with cohesion. And group members tend to be more anxious in their interactions, and power is a main concern here. During the norming stage, there is a strong sense of we-ness that comes when individuals feel a sense of belonging. High levels of enthusiasm and cooperation are also during the stage. Group members begin to identify with one another, and the relationships may benefit from hope, cooperation, collaboration, and cohesion. During the norming stage, group members agree on norms, accept prescriptive and proscriptive norms, and there's a heavy emphasis on commitment. This serves to conclude our lecture on storming and norming through this review of all three stages thus far.
All right, so finishing up here, we did forming last week and the week before, storming and norming. When you're making a group, you guys will create those. You're all going to lead a group. I don't know if it'll be when you chose this week or next week. and then it is the 12th. So any day this month. So any Monday, Wednesday, or Friday this month, or you can lead a group the first week of March. Depending on which week you had chosen, like in that homework assignment, week 1 would obviously have more of the forming details. So that's like the initial startup of the group. Sometimes group members are superficial and center the conversation around historical or future events. Like they don't want to talk about themselves, is what that's trying to say. Like people would rather talk about like the weather than a mental health group. So as the leader, as the social worker of these groups, you guys would deal with apprehension, review members' goals, contracts. That's something we do with our agency. And then maybe create rules. That's actually what week 1 in Girl Circle does. And then promote positive interchange. Storming would be more like second, third week you get into that. There could be conflict. There could be secondary tension. It mentions group members are more anxious. Hello. So as the group leader, if you chose week later when you're dealing with the storming, maybe you concentrate on direct objectives, diminish a healthy pause, or you could even have scapegoating. Like you could have members blaming each other. That could be if you chose weeks 2 or 3. If you're going to lead a group and you choose week 1, you're going to deal more with forming as it's the first week. Weeks 2 and 3, you'll deal with storming. So again, it's entirely up to you which week you choose and when you want to lead it. If it is next week or the week after, I'm trying to get them all done before spring break because you guys have.
So with us leading these groups, we make it a PowerPoint.
You can, yeah, if it helps guide you. And a lot of folks do it based off of what is in Girl Circle. It's called Relationship with Peers. Here's all the different weeks. Yes. We're kind of getting more into there's forming first, but then there's storming, norming. So if you choose weeks that are later, unless if you're choosing the first week, are you choosing to lead? Okay. So you're not leading. There's somebody who wanted to lead Wednesday. And they wanted to do the earlier week. So yeah, that is more of the forming. Now we're doing, I know they all sound the same. They made them rhyme so you'd remember them. Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. It's kind of annoying, but that's how they've always taught groups everywhere I've been. Yes.
And how many weeks do you have to do it?
We're leading as many people as are in the class, but they give you an option here for 10 weeks of groups.
Are we going in order?
You don't have to do it in order, no. That's why I was saying if you picked one of the later weeks, you may be doing storming, norming, even adjourning. Like by week 8, it might be performing. You don't have to bring that up. It's just to know what part of the group you're in. Forming is like when you're just starting out, you're writing rules. Storming is maybe people are fighting. There's going to be an alpha dog. There's going to be a beta dog, somebody who talks more. And as the social worker, you just got to organize everybody in that.
That could be like with options, like choosing which side or which one you prefer.
Like
Storming or that's more of norming. I don't want you to pull it up.
you don't want me to pull that up. It could be like labels, like you're fighting over learning what the labels are that you're looking at. You picked week 8. Let me remember week 8.
So we can pick one of these weeks and
Correct. Correct. Yeah, you can create the PowerPoint off of, they tell you within 5 or 7 pages exactly how to run the group. See how each one, like it's almost brainless, which is good and bad because hopefully you learn how to do it, but you really don't have to do shit. So it's like, all right, so how hard am I going to work on this? It's okay as your students, like you're supposed to learn it now, practice it, and by the time you get your internship, like you're going to be on point, ready to lead a group. I don't know where everybody wanted to do their internships. I always ask that just because I forget every time. But if you wanted to do it at Child Protective Services, maybe you would have a group with parenting. If you wanted to do it over at an addiction recovery place, you could have a parental group dealing with teenagers who were arrested for addiction or alcoholism. So there's so many different groups you could lead. that are in there. And it does tell you literally like what to do. I think the longest one is probably this here. Week 7 is giving voice to feelings. It's 8 pages. Also, so is romantic relationships. So there's a lot packed into those. It doesn't mean, normally a group when we lead them at agencies are like, you really want them to be a minimum half an hour. I'm saying for you guys, 15 minutes is okay because you can bill for a 15-minute group. You know what I mean? Like you're able to submit, bill for, and then get paid by Medicaid for a 15-minute group. Like that's the minimum billable increment. When you like get out into the real world in a year and a half, you guys will be practicing. You'll have to sit there with the client. Sometimes it feels like ages because you're like, I got to make it 38 minutes with this person to bill for 45 minutes. So you find stuff to talk about, you know what I mean? Like sometimes getting real with them is helpful. Sometimes they always talk about self-disclosure. It's okay to self-disclose. You can self-disclose personal stuff if it's beneficial to the client, so that's why a lot of people do like to start with Girl Circle because it's something you went through in your own development. Like you're just dealing with teenage thoughts, feelings, romantic relationships, girl fights or girlfriend. That's one of the last one this week. Did you pick 8 or 9?
8.
So people like romantic and girl fights or girlfriend. And then that's like closure. The week 10 is wholeness and completion. You could pick any group you want, but for those of you that want it all spelled out for you, there's this. And you just go in, fill it out, lead your group, and then you're done. Does it sound scary? It depends on if you like leading groups or not. I always hated leading groups, getting up in front of everybody, talking in front of people. I hated that. Hated it. I got used to it. So like by practice, you do get used to it. Like that's why they have us do internships that are like 300 hours. And they're like, hey, remember when, we got questions here. Hey, or not. We only got one left. Jordan, Deshay, and Marquisha. Hello, everybody, or hello, whoever is still left there. So any questions from you guys? Here's the grant that I was referring to. So this is dipping into more of the final paper, which I will do a halfway due point for that because this is a grant that I wrote. It was in 2015. So Lighthouse got $1 million for this grant. So I worked at Lighthouse Youth Services. This is one of the agencies we worked at. They always want you to have, if you go through the final paper, there's the outline at the end of the syllabus. So it outlines like do 3 paragraphs here, do 3 paragraphs on like objectives, outcomes, and the need for assistance, like show what is interesting to you. Here is the grant that we got on Thursday. I just found out about this grant, and it was for horticulture therapy at Central. So we're going to be able to give Dr. Hunt a raise and then hire on a new social worker. Central State received $599,000 for this. And they want us to reply to a few things. So I talk about getting into the grants.gov website and writing a grant. So like whatever your passion is in social work, what's the most exciting thing to you guys in social work? Like if you were to social work, what do you want to do? Adults, kids, or kids? Okay. So this grant could fall into it. We found this one on grants.gov and applied. I really didn't think we were going to get $599,000. We did. If we reply, we have 3 days to reply. Central will get $300,000. The greenhouse we're buying is $150,000. Dr. Hunt gets a raise and a new staff, and then we have to create.
But is her old staff gonna be fired?
No, it'll be additional staff. Who's her old staff? She needs a new member. She needs a new.
Oh, okay. I thought. Okay.
Who are the staff? I should know this because
The
now.
other, one lady, I think she went to look for side,
Old lady.
and And then it's like another
Okay.
older lady.
So it's to add staff over there. Because we knew they were understaffed. Like she was seeing 800 students a year, I think, right? Does that sound?
Yeah, there's two other people over here to see though.
So maybe
People just, I don't know.
300 each to get 800 a year, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So the good news is we got it. I didn't think applying to make a grant to run a group in horticulture therapy would be exciting to anybody. Well, these people said yes. It's the National Institute of Farming and Agriculture. And as director of social work, I'm going to create a course that will be like permaculture and therapeutic horticulture methods, things that like we teach. Maybe it's during your internship, maybe it's during practice 3 with Nikita. Are you all taking practice 3 right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had to write up this grant. Like sometimes we say, how is a grant, the final paper, like 12 pages? This is what they expect us to do for that grant. And I think it was 97 pages. With this street outreach, this one was 78 pages. There it is. So it's just preparing you guys, like when you go out into the job space. Now you could just be the worker among workers and receive your $45,000, $55,000 a year. If you want to make more, there are opportunities to write these grants. So what we did was like talk about the need, how many homeless people would be served. I don't know what that is, but I'll turn it on. In Cincinnati, we had a homeless shelter for 13 to 18-year-olds and another homeless shelter, 18 to 24-year-olds. We kind of they had me as an editor on this. So like we had to locate all the different places that served homeless. You know, these are all the places you can get jobs at. Wow, I wonder if they're hyperlinked. It looks like they have a hyperlink. Holy shit. I never knew that. Okay. Like these are places you could do your internship at. I had no idea these were hyperlinked. All of these. So like, depending on which city you're wanting to do your internship in. If you want to do it local, you can. Lighthouse has a lot. 19 different programs. So one of them is in Dayton. Do you want to do yours in Dayton or do you want to do them in Columbus or Cleveland?
Not too far.
Right.
Like for like the field practicum or just like
Correct.
for internship? Oh, for the field practicum, not too far.
Which the field practicum is your internship too. So
Oh, but then still not too far.
right.
In and out.
So local, you probably have United Way up here in Dayton. You probably have, I bet Talbot House even stretches. Like the big names you see that are all over. Homeless Coalition is national.
I'll turn this light off right quick so I can see.
You can, sure. Yeah, so this is the big old grant we had to write, and for real, it takes a long while. That's why I'm trying to prepare you to start your final papers soon. You guys will do awesome, but it's just like biting it off a chunk at a time. Like look at the outline. Objectives are first, the people that you're serving. With this grant, we served homeless youth. In this grant, we served Central State and the surrounding areas. So this is the grant we had. I still feel shocked on Friday at the end of the workday. They're like, hey, we're going to give you this grant, but you got to reply to these things. I never.
What does apply to these things mean?
They want us to reply. One is like the PI on this is director of social work. How the heck is he going to have time to do this? 2, local agencies need to send letters of support to us. So like,
Oh, so that can be like, we will take your students.
and 3 is they want the therapeutic horticulture class offered to more than Central students. Maybe put it online and let anybody register who wanted to, which is fine. But so those are like the 3 main ones that I saw. In fact, now you're making me want to look because I had the reply to their grant
When will this
was,
start?
I hope ASAP, because if you work for Dr. Hunt, I'm hoping that this is, here it is. So amount recommended, $9,387. Of course, all to Central State. They'll distribute, like we get maybe a 5 or 10% raise. Dr. Hunt gets a new staff that says your proposal is tentatively recommended for funding. You've been recommended. You will soon receive a separate email, and then we have to address these. And I always look at the concerns. So like right here, it says proposal number, title. Here it is, negative aspects. So like I always go to that, that's what you have to address. Like if you want to write a grant for a group in hort therapy, here's negative aspects. It says letter of support outside the institution, increased mental health organizations should consider marketing the certificate to the community and students, and online program. And then that's the synthesis. There is one other negative comments. I always jump to the negative, strengths, great. That sounds good. This one's like PD is director of social work. So they're calling me out. They're like, how the hell are you going to have time to do all this shit? And it's a good question. Like, maybe a course release. Maybe I use the time to buy out and we hire.
Y'all need more staff? So yeah.
Always. And our last, the same day we found out we got this grant, they told us our search is closed and we're not hiring a new social work staff because we don't have money. Well, here's $599,000. So I would hope that, at least for a few years, it could fund a $50,000 a year teacher. And so like Dr. Wiley, myself, and Nikita started out as $48,000 a year is the standard assistant professor. $58,000 is for associate and $68,000 is for a full professor. So the same day they're like, we got no money. Well, here's an email I forwarded to the dean and the provost. I know we're out of money, but that looks like a lot.
Social work teachers or like social work?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
What do y'all need? Like more like professors or?
Either that or an adjunct, because our reply in this will be like, I'll get a course release and we'll hire an adjunct to teach. I still want to teach. Obviously, I got into it because I'm teaching, but it would take this 3 hours a week away so it can go to the horticulture therapy and like setting up our greenhouse, starting the plants, creating courses. So see kind of the ins and outs of groups. When you write, what you're going to do is create your own group. And I hope I can share this one with you guys the easiest, because this is a perfect example of how to write. This is $1 million grant, and we actually got this. You don't always get the big bucks for it, but you often can get a 10 or 15% raise. So that's nice. You know what I mean? If you're at $50,000 a year, you'll get $55,000. If you're at 60, you'll get $66,000. It just depends. So this is one grant that we use, and I know we only have 10 minutes left, but any questions on all that? I know that's a lot to throw out at you and very little time. Where is D2L? D2L. And I did write to Dr. Wiley and the dean and the chair asking if she doesn't have that scholarship money for you guys, if like there's other avenues. I just don't know where else we get it. I'm actually kind of glad that came up, as awkward that is to say, hey, sorry, we don't have $30 laying around, even though we just got a $599,000 grant at Central. You guys know with your accounts payable how hard they are to hand out that money, right? Do any of you get Great Minds? The Great Minds Scholarship? Or hear about it?
I know about it.
Yeah, I know about it.
So what they did was give the students the money, but then take their loans out. So in hand, it was the same amount of money. So they took their loans away, which is kind of a good thing. But if you were expecting to get money in hand, they took away the loan. So it's just going to be the same refund check. Does that make sense? And that was the Central's accounting people. So I'm curious what they'll do with $500,000 now. Great Minds was $300,000. What do you guys think? No, none of you did because you're from other states, or you just weren't?
Oh, I did.
You signed up for it? Oh, so you are on Great Minds? Then what do they do with the money?
I haven't got anything about it.
So you,
I heard might be get their money. They just got their money. We had heard about it maybe like last semester. So I think they applied last semester
Okay.
and they kind of just got their money. I'm not sure if they got it in hand or if they just applied to their school bill.
Right. That's what I think they're doing is they applied to your school bill and then they say you don't need this $2,000 loan from the feds,
Oh, okay.
which we all know that means your refund check then stays the same. Like if you were thinking there'll be a extra grand on the refund or a band or two, it looks different. Let's at least give you that for the grant writing. Any other questions? Does anybody prefer one-on-one and other people prefer leading groups? Like when you do social work, you
So we
want to
need
do,
to pick 10 weeks out of those 18 weeks.
you pick 1 week to lead. That's it.
Oh.
So all 10 of you will lead the 10 weeks if you so chose, or you can pick your own off the internet.
Oh, so then I just out of that 1 week.
And you come in and lead it. You're going to be sitting up here and you run that group.
Oh.
And it tells you start to finish exactly what to do, say, and bring for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again.
Example for final paper. / outline. So I'm going to do that where you can turn in early just to make sure you guys get started on time. Because if you're like me, you'll wait until the last minute and then do your paper. Midnight the night before. And that always messed me up. Sometimes the teachers were like,
Is this the 9-page one?
yes. Yeah. So you'll lead your group February and March. You'll write your outline or first half of that paper March and April. You'll turn in the final paper the very last day of April. And I'll work on it with you. You can send me drafts. I can help you write it. I can help find you
And it's
grants.
about the group that we do, right?
It can be, yeah. So you can connect the two. That's what's cool is they can be almost the same assignment. And what you may be writing and proposing is I want to create a girls circle group for Dr. Hunt's counseling center at Central State University. That could be your full proposal. When you write the 9 pages, you cite girls circle, you give like evidence of why we need it. Maybe there's in college mental health concerns, there's traumas that happen and things that occur that it would be beneficial to have a girls circle here on campus. Or you're going to write an addiction recovery group. Maybe a bunch of people want to quit drinking or smoking. So like at the counseling source, we recommend having this, that, and the other. I hope this works for you. I'll check it. Oh, see now, I guess that's good though, because it will show me which one of you guys actually request access to it. That's annoying, but if you just say like, yo, give me, give me access, and then you hit request access. That's all you gotta do. I don't even know who I'm signed in through right now, but that's okay. Any other questions? Does that seem crazy that they accepted our proposal for a horticulture therapy group? They want to give Central $500,000. What do you think they're going to do with that $500,000?
I hope they create a scholarship or something.
I hope so. I really, really do. A scholarship for the Phi Alpha Honors Society, right? For you guys.
Honestly, it could be anything.
Right. But that's like a measly $30. I've been pulling teeth to get $30 for anything. When I started Phi Alpha, I asked them for 7 months in a row to pay the $50 just to have Phi Alpha for our social work students on campus. I was begging everybody and their mom for
What is Phi Alpha?
the Social Work Honor Society. Like if you're in the top 10% of social work GPAs or whatever, you get invited to be a part of the Social Work Honor Society. And we just didn't have it before. So I was like, I'm going to sign up and do this. Hopefully our next assignment is due when? Markesia, you're going to lead a group for us either next week or the week following. You're like, we've gone over this 5 times. That's all I've got.
Great, see you.
All right.